It's the 1950s and the Second Red Terror is in full effect in America. And for a good reason, the Russians had the ability to initiate mutual destruction. So plans for the Nike missile defense system were in full effect for all strategic cities, being named after the Greek goddess of victory and not the shoe brand. It would be planned as a sight-aimed missile defense system, originally used to shoot down atomic bombers and later ICBMs, allegedly. Armed with smaller warheads, explosives, and some even plutonium warheads. They were placed around cities and bases in a circular fashion. Each base had one battery control and other launch area, about a mile apart. Around my home city of Pittsburgh, there is around 2 out of the original 12 magazine launch bases in all right condition, meaning that they aren't completely destroyed and maybe they still function. To say the very least, nuclear Pittsburgh was an interesting place, with hidden fuel tanks covered by a fake farm, road plans around Pittsburgh in case of a nuclear attack hit Pittsburgh, armies could actually get around the radiation. I personally visited some of the sites around my own city, and I have to say most of them are destroyed. There's no evidence of them. But there was one on Nike Road that kind of held promise. It was on a private road, so it couldn't go down it, but it wasn't quite a no trespassing forested road. It was almost like a secluded community like road, no gate or anything. But from what I could see, that there was a path leading to the base, and there was also a state trail sign there. So maybe they were trying to do something, and it never really came to, pinnacle. But for the most part, actually, I believe that it's still there, even though that Wikipedia said that it was completely filled with dirt and destroyed. I don't think that they would have like a path to it and still have this big private road with people living on it. Even though it is probably filled with dirt, it's nice to think that maybe they did preserve it in some way and didn't just destroy it. It did seem to have some work done, with the trail sign and everything, and they did have a actually paved path to it. So it'd be kind of weird for them just to destroy it. I don't know what's really going on with it. Although I couldn't see the missile base itself, I did see its sister radio tower. And the radio tower is barely up. I mean, it's kind of there's a couple steel beams in a circular area that have been torn down. They definitely torn down the tower. It's kind of being used as a lumber storage area. I think the building, though, is still up. I don't think they changed that. The building that they had next to the radio tower was very old and still had wires running to it, what's left of it. It was actually really kind of cool. It was big, towering, kind of like a monolith. Some of the missile silos are actually being preserved by private investors. People will come out and buy up one of these missile silos. Maybe they'll turn them into their own private Batman garage or something cool, which is a better use than just filling it with dirt. So did the missile defense system work? No. With the atomic bombers, maybe, but with the ICBMs, it would only taken less than 4 to overwhelm them. The biggest problem with it is that it was a sight to missile aiming system, so it all depended on how good the human was at tracking these missiles and shooting them down. And for the most part, it was kind of like shooting at a pistol at a model rocket mid-flight. Primarily, the missiles were just there to make people feel safe. Despite a missile exploding in 1958 Leonardo, New Jersey, killing 10 people, and for a nuclear warhead to kind of just go off inside of a base like that, that's a small amount of people. It could have been a lot worse. But the fact that there was nuclear missiles in everyday suburbia would have been kind of really troubling, especially nowadays. But what makes the Nike defense system special is that it's a piece of history that's in most cities that most people don't know about. I mean, all the locations are in Wikipedia, and if a small city like Pittsburgh has a full array of missile defense systems, then it's probably in most cities. I know Philadelphia, New York, even that one in New Jersey was just a small town. So chances are is that you probably have a missile defense system around your neighborhood that's Probably still sort of intact. I mean, none of the missiles are there, obviously, but the launching mechanisms probably still work. There's multiple accounts for locking mechanisms that still work. In Pennsylvania, I think in some in Philadelphia, they still work. But for the most part, the ones in Pittsburgh sadly don't work. All the old locations and current uses can be found on Wikipedia. There's a big list. It has all the coordinates of them. So I highly suggest that you look them up and like find out where they are because they're kind of cool. Maybe there's one that's completely abandoned. Nobody owns it. And you can walk right into it and, kind of see a missile defense system from the 60s. The Nike missile defense system is just like a small example of interesting things that all of our cities have. Like there's the tank farm that I talked about earlier. There's like miles of turnpike just completely abandoned. There's tunnels, miles of tunnels in the middle of Pennsylvania just like completely abandoned. And it kind of shows us that each city kind of has something special about it, something that we don't know about. And it's interesting to kind of like find a story like the Nike defense system and like learn about it and go visit it. So if you want more of this stuff or like you want me to talk about Tank Farm, I can do a video on that. I mean, I'll probably end up doing a video on it eventually anyways. It's an interesting story and needs to be told. All right, well, thanks for watching, and try to support smaller channels like me and subscribe and stuff. Leave a comment. I'll most likely reply. And have a nice night.